Shalom, first and foremost, I'd like to give all praise to Yahawah, bahasham, yahawashi, bahasham, quadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles, the great millstone, who are teaching this truth in sincerity, and a shout out to Yakian that's out there on the four corners of Europe proclaiming this truth. Barak the Yahawah, barak the yahawashi, bahasham, quadash, barak atham. So taking a look at the Syria news channels, the pro-government channels, which are kind of hard to find on YouTube, but there are still a few left that actually run and seeing this Turkish invasion, which has resumed as of last night, or as of last night, because last night is our night. So pretty much their operations have resumed, you know, because there's an 11-hour difference if you're here on the Pacific coast, and about maybe 8 if you're on the East Coast. Nonetheless, though, the fighting has continued. We know that Turkey had conducted airstrikes during the so-called ceasefire as well. And while you have seen the footage of the Kurds throwing rocks and cursing out Esau, which is a beautiful thing to see, you know, cursing out these Idumeans, you know, it was a great thing to see that. And, you know, pretty much, though, and they should have never made the deal with them. But like I said, Esau took advantage of a situation there because the Kurds deep down want their own region anyways, but you know, the fact is, though, is that Iraq and Syria are their own countries, as well as Gomer being its own country, and Kurdistan was never going to be allowed. The United States and Amalek, they knew this, and so they just took advantage of a situation by saying, okay, well, we'll protect you if we protect our, you know, Syrian democratic forces. So it was a deal, and of course the United States does what it does best. It reneged on the deal, and of course they're mad. But you know, other agriculture is also being destroyed by this war on Syria, as you can see here. You know, pretty much, though. And America has been nothing but dry land as well. The Most High has cursed this place. And this one in from the Russian media channel. And this one you can actually read in subtitles, so this is a little bit better, as you can see. Of course, slow down this video if you want to be able to read it. And I showed you that yesterday, but now we got the translation down below on what Bashar al-Assad had said. So basically, Bashar al-Assad and Russia, you know, have also pretty much had made, it looks like Putin and Erdogan had also made a historic deal, and we're going to be looking into that as well. Because it's biblical prophecy that Gomer and all those bands will be protected by Magog, Russia.
Раньше здесь приземлялись вертолеты американских ВВС, теперь садится российский Ми-8. Американцы использовали этот аэродром для снабжения своих баз к западу от Ефрата, в районе сирийского Манбиджа. Здесь приземлялись ударные вертолеты «Апач», которые участвовали в патрулировании этого района. Кроме того, транспортниками Штаты завозили сюда военную помощь, которая потом направлялась подразделениям так называемой умеренной оппозиции. В их числе были и курды, которых Штаты открыто поддерживали в их противостоянии с официальным Дамаском. Но когда войска США отсюда ушли, курды поняли, союзникам не угадали. Теперь, столкнувшись с угрозой уже вместе с правительственными подразделениями Сирии, армия занимает территорию, куда раньше доступ ей был фактически закрыт, в том числе и эту авиабазу. Наша задача обеспечивать безопасность аэродрома и защищать его. Сейчас он полностью под контролем сирийской армии. Самолеты пока не могут садиться, полоса вся разбита, но мы собираемся это исправить. Взлетную полосу взорвали террористы ИГИЛ, которые контролировали эту территорию еще до курдов и американцев. Когда в Эттапке появились военные из США, для собственных целей им вполне хватало вертолетных площадок. Восстанавливать аэродром в их планы не входило. Важнейшее стратегическое значение аэродрома Эттапка в первую очередь определяется его местоположением. Отсюда до Раки всего 40 километров. И теперь, когда это место контролирует подразделение правительственных сил, оно будет использоваться для доставки грузов, необходимых для сирийской армии, которая сейчас продолжает продвижение к сирийско-турецкой границе.
1,5-километровая полоса аэродрома позволяет ему принимать малые транспортные самолеты. Кроме того, сирийские ВВС могут использовать эту базу как аэродром подскока для своих сил, направляющихся на север с авиабаз Шайрат или Тифор, что находится отсюда южнее. Главное сейчас в максимально короткие сроки восстановить взлетно-посадочную полосу. Александр Белилов, Сергей Елисеев и Андрей Юрчук. Вести с авиабазы Тапка, провинция Ракка.
Other historic deal between Magog and Gomer.
Project into practice. I hope it will work well for our countries and our people. As friends of the Syrian people and their neighbors, we're ready to do our best to achieve peace and stability in the country.
Syria should be free of any unlawful foreign presence. The long-term stability of Syria can only be achieved by observing the sovereignty and unity of the country.
Right now, Vladimir Putin and Tayyip Erdogan have shaken their hands, and the 10-paragraph agreement is there. There are many elements to it. First of all, it ensures that all the involved sides respects the territorial integrity of Syria, but more importantly, if we look into it, the agreement means that Russia agreed to Turkey's desired 30-kilometer buffer zone along the border. It means that the Kurdish militias now have 150 hours to leave that area. Parts of the zone will later be patrolled by Russia's military police and the Turkish military. Plus, another paragraph rules that control over the Turkish-Syrian border on the Syrian side should be returned to the Syrian government forces. And by the way, Vladimir Putin has already been on the phone with the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, and we know already that Damascus is pleased with the outcome of today's talks between Putin and Erdogan. It's also very important that if everything goes according to plan, the Turkish offensive will be put on hold for another 150 hours, as I've said. So clearly a breakthrough after talks that lasted well longer than originally expected by the Turkish president and the Russian leader Vladimir Putin. One of the main questions right now is where all this leaves the U.S., and this is exactly what I asked the Russian Minister of Defense and the Russian Foreign Minister, who continued talking to the journalists after the leaders left. And to that, Sergei Lavrov reminded us that Russia believes that the American troops and their involvement in Syria was illegal in the first place. And Sergei Shoigu, the top Russian army official, reminded us of the expiring deadline of the so-called previous ceasefire brokered between Washington and Ankara, and expressed some real skepticism about the Americans fulfilling their promises.
The United States has very little time left to fulfill their obligations. Very soon the time bar expires, which was meant to see moving heavy equipment away, combat units and so on.
The senior Russian officials went on to bring up a few other issues that are still out there regardless of the agreement. For example, the fate of ISIL terrorists that were released as a result of this vacuum when the Turkish army didn't enter just yet, but the Kurdish militias had already retreated. According to Sergei Shoigu, hundreds of ISIL fighters have run free at this point. There's also the refugee issue and many others, but again, judging by what we heard throughout Tuesday after these extended talks between the leaders of Russia and Turkey, the level of trust and the friendship between the leaders, their relationship that they've established in the last few years, allows them to deal with pretty much any difficulties in that area, given that right now they're clearly the number one players when it comes to dealing with the situation in northeast Syria.